Hello. So this is the video which is continuing from the earlier discussion uh, that we did on the how do we need to structure and how do we need to think about the body part of an essay. Okay. So from there we will continue in this video and just reminding you guys that what all we discussed in that video we discussed about that uh, mm, how can we ensure the flow flow in the body part of an essay because mm, we can maintain this we can ensure it by having the last line of your first paragraph or the first line of the second paragraph should have some connecting line. These connecting line can easily you can frame data like you start giving directions from the last line that what are you going to discuss in the next line, or you can do that the next the first line of paragraph should recognize that you these all things we have discussed and now we are starting from here. So this is the way to maintain a flow. And next thing that we discussed is about like how can we substantiate our different perspectives that we mention in an essay, in the body part of an essay. Like that we can do by using the examples or you can do by using the facts. But the important thing is that the thing which makes it a little different, essay little different from the GS answer, like don't use too much facts because it will be kind of a mechanical thing that you are doing here. So for ensuring that emotional part that we say to ensure the connect with the examiner, always try to substantiate if you have good examples that those examples could be from the GS portion as well because different news that we hear about international affairs or some governance standards. Like there was an issue in Chhattisgarh, I think that one mother and the child died because of the ineffective implementation of a PDS because the Aadhaar, the verification of Aadhaar became an issue. Similarly, similarly different issues emerge. How the governance system, the if the bureaucrats start focusing too much on the rule-based order instead of focusing on the role-based order, then how it affects the administration. So these examples somehow are creating and somehow develops an emotional connect or you can connect with the examiner. But if you start mentioning the facts too much, then it becomes mechanical and kind of reflect the rote learning that we do not want in an essay. Okay, that's the one thing. We also talked about that we need to ensure that there should be any small paragraphs because too lengthy paragraphs adds to the complexity of an essay and it becomes difficult to kind of we can say decipher because the examiner will not invest too much time if they find it that's too much complex to understand, and you may end up losing marks. The same content if you will start presenting in small paragraphs and start presenting in a smaller sentences, the same content it start having a better marks because it is understandable. Otherwise, you have written the content, you are confident, but the marks does not reflect your knowledge. So that aspect you need to be cautious about. Okay, and I think we also discussed about the transitioning per paragraph. Like when we are transitioning from introduction to body, you need to guide the examiner that what all things you are going to discuss in the body part of an essay, and that transition paragraph could have in different questions: what, why, when, why, where, all these things. It could have a stakeholder perspective, different stakeholders, how they are part, how they can contribute, and how they are getting affected. These could be the one thing. Other thing that we can do is about the institutional levels, like different institutions, how they are involved. So that could also be a thing. For the timeline perspective that we talk about, the historical dimension presenting and how the future will pan out. So that is also a way to think about. So these are the different approaches or the pathways in which we can go while presenting work, while we are putting effort towards thinking about the different dimensions for the essay for the body part of message. Okay, so now I am coming towards the conclusion part of message. We have written all the dimension. One more thing that we discuss is the prioritization of a dimension because there are different dimensions like say political, historical, economical, all these perspectives. So which perspective should we prioritize first? Which should be next? So that also need to be you need to be cautious about because you can't write anything which is less important at the first place. Okay, so be cautious about that as well. So all these efforts goes in the rough work that we do at the back end. So that's why UPSC provide a lot of rough pages in the essay booklet, answer sheet. Okay, so properly utilize that time because first 15 minutes that we invest is about the brainstorming and putting effort and think about the which what would be the outline and structure of our essay. Okay, so utilize that time properly. Okay, so now coming to the conclusion part of essay. So conclusion, there are two, I think as for me, I write conclusion, I usually put around 2 pages for the conclusion because there should be an proper allocation and discussion regarding what all we have derived from whole write-ups that we have done in the essay. The first thing is that one paragraph I used to invest, and it is around one third that what all we discussed. We have discussed about, like, if we have discussed about the stakeholders aspect, if we have discussed about institution involved, if we have discussed our timeline. So I will try to present that we have discussed all these things. Okay. Or we have maybe we may also have discussed about the thesis and antithesis part. So that also, so very crisp, in a very crisp way, try to present that all these things that we have covered in an essay. So that is the one paragraph for the conclusion. Second thing for the conclusion is that when we like there's the one thing we say that echo effect of an conclusion. So one, I think I should clarify one more thing that usually we get confused between the future that futuristic dimension that we mentioned, the what should happen in the future. That is not a conclusion. That is a body part, or that is the last paragraph of the body part of our essay. Okay, so in the future, what should be the future? What should be the approach? All these things are the part of the body. This is not a conclusion. Conclusion is when we start finding the whole the crux of and all the things that we discussed. So that is the conclusion. That will include the thesis, antithesis, all these things. Okay. So first paragraph of one conclusion that I talked about is okay, there should be a discussion that what all things that we discussed. That's the one paragraph. Okay, then one more thing that we do is then we start there's the one thing that many, I think you may have heard some mentors also talk about that eco effect. Eco effect will we start utilizing the eye-catching lines and eye-catching phrases to gain the attention that what all things can happen. Like there are different quotes that we remember that the Rabindranath Tagore poem, the famous poem. You know? Similarly, there could be various ways to we should start recalling and we should start you should also I think there's a one way to do that like start collecting different important lines or quotes said by different important personalities, and I'm not saying you should just put the same line there, but that start giving you an idea that how can we have an eye-catching way of presenting the things. Eco effect means like we start appealing for something, like these all things should happen. Okay, so that is the purpose there. Like that is the important thing that we need to ensure. Okay, like the Rabindranath Tagore poem is like a good flow that we ensure, so that we can always utilize it. Even we can utilize the important lines. Not we need not present the whole all the phrases or all these things. We can pick up important lines from there and utilize it. Similarly, the famous speech of the Martin Luther King, I think like the blacks and whites, all these things. So one day the dream and all that was that the famous speech of the Martin Luther King. So that is very eye-catching, and that is a theme or the crux of an eco effect. Like what things, some repeated things start coming, but every line have some new expectation and futuristic vision as well. So that kind of things if we develop and if we are able to present at the end, so that somehow makes a better conclusion. So there's the two things. First thing that we mentioned about the complete the like kind of summing up that we all these things we need to discuss. All things we discussed in the whole writer. Second thing, the eco effect of an conclusion. Third important thing that we should answer that our essay should kind of complete the full circle that we started from the introduction. There's one story, the fictional, non-fictional, whatever you have chosen, that story should again come up, and we should if we have presented some kind of a plightful condition or some situation, then on the basis of a whole assay, on the basis of all the dimension that we discussed, we again come back to that story and discuss if these things could have happened, then the same story would have some other future, would have an other results. Okay, so that somehow gives the how our whole discussion have could have an impact on our story that we discussed and picked up earlier. So it comes up, it completes and show the full circle that we usually expect in the essay. So that is also a thing that we need to ensure. So all three things. So there's the one confusion that may come that which paragraph, which dimension, which thing should come first. So first thing that will be, we will summing up all the things. It would be by one paragraph. Second thing, then we will come back to our earlier introduction story and try to give it a dimension that if these things could have happened that we discussed in the body pattern essay, then the same story would have a different feature or results. Okay, then we will come back to the eco effect part. The last part will be the eco effect. And usually you must have noticed that very people usually end up with some kind of a quotes. So that quote is also a kind of eco effect, but that is very kind of kind of we can say the rushed up version of eco effect. So I'm not saying that you should pick up exact line, but if you will start practicing and picking up, then you will develop an skill that we are basically utilizing those lines to present our perspective. Like if we have an Martin Luther King's speech, then we can also draw the similar speech if we have to present things on the basis of caste lines or the gender lines or even the international perspective of the division among the Western nation and the global south. So all these dimensions also about discrimination only. Simply, if we have to mention about the Rabindranath Tagore poem, then that is the kind of the futuristic things that how the knowledge will be inspiration for the future, how the division in society division in the society should not happen. These are also the similar other dimension could also be included in this story in these phrases. So that is a important thing that we need to practice. But the eco effect basically sums up the thing in a better way. It somehow makes it a kind of presentable thing. So that's why it is important to try to practice it. When I will do the discussion on the one-to-one basis, then we will have a further discussion and further we will discuss then how, because it is not the thing that all the people will be comfortable with that eco effect and utilizing those ways. So then we can discuss other things as well. This is not a cast in stone kind of a thing that this is the only way. But this is the one better way and a simplistic way to not complex or to avoid the complexity and be presentable in an essay. Okay, so that's the thing. Or I want to discuss two, three things that a few suggestions came that I should also start discussing in the Hindi. So I think I think the number of mentees that I have so around 50% is 50 or 60% are from South India, and many of them are not comfortable with the Hindi. So that is the one issue. So, but I will try if I get the time, then I will try to make some videos, the important things in Hindi as well. Okay. And another suggestion that came is thing that I should start using the slides or something. So I am thinking about it, but let's see because it will be a time consuming, additional time consuming thing. And but I am thinking about it. If I get a time, then I will try to include that thing as well. Okay. And I think this is only this much suggestion. Yeah, one more thing that I missed is the whenever you are practicing, whenever you will go for a practicing of an essay. So better thing is instead of going for some coaching centers, download the copies of the UPSC toppers. Okay, like the Anudeep sir has a very important. He has one book. He has written one book as well on essay. That is a really good book. So you should utilize that book. It is the book has presented the different parts of essay in a very effective manner. So utilize that. The toppers copy, the Anu Kumari man's copy, the Shruti Sharma man's copy, and the Shubham Kumar sir's copy. These are all AIR one, I think. So, but they have written very good essays. So utilize that thing and start practicing the same essay and then compare what all things they are doing differently. So that will make your essay, you will start realizing that where you kind of deviate or what are the things that you miss out. So that will help you in improving your essay. Okay. And otherwise, we will also have a discussion, the one-to-one discussion. Then we will discuss okay, what the thing, because remember that essay and ethics papers, they're very important portions to score better in examination. So so be cautious about it. Don't ignore, because usually the time we invest in essay and ethics are comparatively lesser, and it's somehow affects our marks in examination. So be cautious about it. And no, then if you have any more suggestions regarding these things which we are doing regarding the videos, so these are foundational videos. We will have a one-to-one discussion. Okay, so that is not an issue. But if you have any more suggestions, then you are free to give those suggestions. So thanks. Bye.